Ram and welcome to episode 7 of season 1 Chai with Sai. I am Saundary, your host for this very exciting and interesting episode. Before we get into the topic of discussion, let me introduce our two very amazing guests. We have Sisters Shanggari and Sister Suchitra. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
So as cliche as it goes, can you give us a little introduction and probably a fun fact about yourself? We can start with Sister Shanggari.
Alright, so Saram everyone, my name is Shanggari and I'm a fourth year medical student and I'm currently studying in MSU Shah Alam. One fun fact about me would be I read about 10 to 15 books a year.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. Probably you can let us know what's your favorite book and a little more about the book.
Okay, one recent book I read last year was Think Like a Monk by J. Shetty. It kind of teaches you about how you implement the monk rules into your day-to-day life.
Well, I think this inspires me to read more books. Sister Suchitra?
Right, Sai Ram, my name is Suchitra. I have a background in communications. I teach music by the side. The fun fact would be I can play 5 musical instruments. Can play, yeah, that's the word.
You can let us know what instruments you play?
Right, so they are the violin, veena, an electron, which is basically a double keyboard, the basics of a clarinet and the guitar.
Wow, okay. So as you can see, we have very multi-talented guests here today. So before we get into the topic of discussion, I have a little game for the both of you. I'll give you a statement and you have to let the audience know you agree or disagree with the particular statement.
All right.
Okay? So statement number 1, the night is better than the day.
Yes.
Okay, that was a very fast reaction. Statement 2, playing a game is only fun when you win.
No.
No, okay. The internet is better than the TV.
Yes.
Yeah, somewhat.
Somewhat, okay. Next statement, the cold is better than the heat.
No.
My God, I can't pick a side. I have no idea. Sometimes it's one or the other.
Neutral.
Yeah, probably neutral.
Alright, maths is an important subject to learn.
Yes.
No.
No.
Medical
Probably
students.
from a medical background, biology I think is the most
Sure, I wonder
important.
where chemistry and physics comes in here, but okay.
Alright, school is a fun place to be in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think we all miss our school days.
A lot.
Right? Okay, and last statement, following your heart is better than following social norm.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes, okay. So the last statement gives us a small hint of the topic for today. So telling your story and voicing out is defines who you are as a person, right? So when I mentioned Mother Teresa, Oprah Winfrey, I know of them of such great speakers and of their voice, right? So this brings us to the first step and the first question, which is what forms your voice as an individual? So we can start probably with Sister Suchitra.
Forms my voice as an individual. Well, I think mainly it's about your identity, right? When someone says your name, you would want them to remember you by ABC, right? And I think that ABC comes from the principles that you live by. So if you're asking me what forms my voice, I think it would be honesty, and actually most importantly it would be those 4 checkpoints that Swami talks about. Is it truthful? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And does it improve silence? So if it sort of doesn't tick any of these boxes, then it doesn't make sense for you to say anything at that point. Yeah. So in terms of my voice, if you don't hear me speak, that means I believe it's not necessary for me to, or it doesn't tick fall up basically.
Okay, Shanggari.
Okay, so my voice, I think it's like a whole mixed up of situations, right? Since I was a little girl, how I was brought up, to how school was and how now college is, and it will just change, keep on changing based on your particular phase of life. So I think, but of course there is some fundamental backgrounds that you need to have to, own that voice of yours, because it keeps changing with society's standards and with age. So I think a very, very important thing for me would be my core values that my parents taught me, and clearly what Swami always mentions. So that kind of builds up my voice, yeah.
Yes, it's basically your core values which you have been taught since young. So now that you know your voice as an individual, right, is it important voicing out? So if so, why? Shanggari?
Voicing out, I clearly agree to that, because opinions are something so subjective that someone is okay with it or not okay with it. So when you say what you want to say, it gives everyone around you the choice to whether agree or disagree, and that gives us a lot more insight of how different people's ideologies are. Yeah.
That's true.
Interesting enough, because that sort of contradicts what I said with the song, right? So voicing an opinion, I believe it's important, it's necessary, and I always believe that you are entitled to your own opinion, which is good. But I think it's the manner you say it. So I could have a thought, but my voice could be how I'm saying it, and that would be an identity. So she chooses to say it in this perspective. That sort of does not bring, I mean, if you're looking at the most negative side, it does not bring as much conflict or disagreement, and how people would like to say politically correct, so you are voicing on an opinion, but the way you phrase it is different. So obviously it's important to voice out, but I think it's more of choosing the battles that you would want to participate in. If you think it's a discussion that you think that, yeah, I think it's okay if I don't, then I think you should allow yourself not to.
Yeah. Now I think we've broken down who you are as an individual and is it important to voice out. There are always two extremes to everything, right? So when it comes to voicing out, it can be too much or it can be too little. So you choose, like what Suchitra said. You can choose which situations you want to voice out or not. Right, so have you ever been like in a group discussion where there's so many characters where one will try to take the lead, another one will just start complaining about the whole project, another one will probably just stay silent as a sleeping member and things like that. So like in Ramayana, Lakshmana has always been the one that's more outspoken, and you think he will challenge the brother, but Rama was more, he thinks first and then he says, like, who should we be like? Should we be more like Lakshmana or should we be more like Lord Rama? Basically, when is the right time to start speaking and when is the right time you choose to be silent?
You want to take that?
Okay. I think I always go by this one quote, which I don't know who said it, but they always say when there's an option to say something kind or to say something honest, always choose kindness, right? So every time I am asked a situation like where I have to say something out there, I always think about that one statement. Is my statement or the thing that I'm going to say, is it going to be, it's going to hurt that person because of the abrupt honesty it holds? Or I can maybe, rephrase it into something a lot more kinder. Maybe in the heat of the moment, it would be the best thing to say, but that would, clearly hurt that particular person, right? So I would say it's always different to the different situations. But yeah, I think always choose to be kinder. Yeah.
Right. So when the first question was posed, right, the voice of your own, I think of it as a style. So it applies with music, it applies with leadership, right? So someone knows you as a leader, they know that you lead by a certain way, right? And in terms of whether you should voice out or not, so let's compare to that whole Rama and Lakshmana aspect. Lakshmana reacts.
Correct.
Rama responds. If you're looking at it in this perspective, it's not that he didn't have a thought or something to say, but there's a bit more of observation. I'm looking at the situation, let's see what's happening, and then I'm taking an action. Instead of Lakshmana saying something, I mean, we've all been in Lakshmana's position where we go, hey, this is what you did, but then it's actually not what it seemed. And then we take a moment to pause and be like, oh, sorry. So, I mean, when you go through that a little too often, you sort of tell yourself then to just take a step back. Because I'd rather stop myself from saying something that is, once said cannot be taken back, than to say something and then regret later, no?
Right.
Yeah, so I sort of believe in that whole, assess the situation, and if what you're saying is going to, in the sense, improve the situation, then go ahead.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, everyone is entitled for their own opinion and things like that. I think it resonates with Swami's quote saying that practice silence, right? He gives importance in silence, and where, like Suchitra Akka said, you take a step back and you be in your silence before you react, right? So I think we can move on to our next question, which is, as young adults, right? I am sure that there are scenarios where you think people around you may not be on the same page, right? It can be social norms, or it can be something people have been doing and you want to do things different and you feel like it's the right thing to do. So has there been a scenario where your values and principles are different from social norms today? Suchitra Akka?
That's like a day-to-day thing. I mean, I'm born in the 90s, okay? We're living with like the 2K kids, and it's different. It's absolutely different. I think if the question is more on how do you sort of gel in with these people, then it's more of understanding where they come from. See, when I was learning music younger, you know, it wasn't just a class. It was a class that you have to go. So that means however much attention you give in school is what you give in this class. But nowadays, I mean, I know we've given like that sort of you can choose to or not choose to, but they've officially, like, you know, kept it as a extracurricular activity that doesn't matter, you know. So I mean, coming from a point where, like, you know, you were brought up where how you are supposed to learn, and then versus now you're giving that education and then it's completely different. You sort of understand where the child is coming from. So in that sense, there is not more of me going against them, but understanding, okay, so this is how you all are thinking right now. I mean, like a 6 or 7-year-old will be able to operate a tab better than me, for all you might know, right? But that doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it just means that, you know, it came from a different environment altogether. I think just similarly within the three of us, we are not even 5 years apart. Okay, but there would be differences, and there would be times where what I'm saying might not resonate with you and what you're saying might not resonate with me. And if we are a little bit more matured enough, we would take a moment to think, where is she coming from with this perspective? So I think it's about that. So with social norms and all, it's more of, okay, so this is a phase, or this is where they are coming from. This is what they think. This is what they believe in.
I mean, I agree with Akka what she said, because they are all stuck in a era of very fast, of everything. Everything is fast. So even what they are doing right now is not going to be there anymore, you know, maybe in 2 weeks' time. So they do things very quickly. And recently I had an issue with my class because I hold a leader position, and I was very quick to judge. I was like, all these people are spoiled. They don't know how to make sacrifices. But understanding from what they come from, you know, that's how they have been. They have been getting their way all along. So maybe when I was growing up, I did not get my way all the while. So that's how I built my personality, and that's how they have built theirs. So I think as someone with a little, you know, difference with the new generation now, I think I can learn to adapt and try to comprehend what actually goes on in their head. And I think there is that difference, but I think it can be dealt with.
Correct. I think if you put it in layman terms, the most difference, I think, is the cartoon that we watch. Right? From like they've got Sophia the First, and
what did they do to diss each other?
So we have got so many other differences which, you know, will make them understand world in a different perspective, right? Okay, so moving on, as women, right? Women's voice represent her power and her identity. So sometimes our voice may be drowned out, okay, without us realizing and without, you know, the surrounding realizing, and, you know. So as women, have you ever felt suppressed to when expressing your emotions?
Okay, so all the time, if ask any of my school friends, they'll be like, oh, yeah, Suchitra's an emotional person. So that thing I've realized a lot. So when you associate emotions with a woman, whatever she says is out of emotion, is the assumption that's made. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's entirely that, but you should give the benefit of the doubt that this person's actually individual is actually taking time to express herself, right? So if the question is, have I been suppressed? Yeah, like a zillion times. Something as simple as ordering food at the dinner table, I wouldn't be hurt, right? And also there could be just, maybe other voices are much more louder, but in terms of expressing opinion, we've uni life and then like in the SAI or even at work, it's more of, what's the word? There's a label on what your standard is at this point, where you ranking at. You ranking at a certain position, okay, then we'll accept your opinion. If you're not, then okay, we will consider, but not. Right? For me, it's more of, when I get suppressed, at least in the past and present, it's more of me understanding the other person who has suppressed me. Does that stop me from having that opinion? No. But if like the person is not ready to listen to it, then I just believe that you're not ready to listen to it.
So basically, that's how you overcome the situation.
Yeah, I sort of let it go to a certain extent. I mean, I'll try, especially if it's a pressing situation where if you don't voice out, there's no change that's going to take place. So if that's in a dire situation, then I would sort of, then we'll come off as like bossy or dominant.
Right.
But then again, these are terms that are associated very, like largely with women alone, and I sort of don't understand that concept, but trying to. Yeah, but that's what I do, basically, just, sort of accept if this person is ready to listen or not.
Sis Shanggari?
Okay, so I think I agree with Akka. So that suppression kind of gave me a loud voice. So I tend to start conversations. I tend to be the first person to go out there and say something when everyone is just reluctant, and they're just sitting there and thinking of what to say. So I became opinion dominant, I would say. I just go there and say what I want to say because of feeling suppressed all these years. Because it's not that they want to suppress you, it's just that they think that your opinion would not change things much.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So they feel like what she's going to say, it's not going to be so great. Yeah, so I think that's how I kind of, came into an understanding that, whatever it is, I will say what I can. So whether it changes the situation or not, I will give my input on it. Yeah, that's it.
So it doesn't matter about the third party, but you will still voice out no matter what.
But were you ever suppressed when you voice out?
Because I'm loud, so it
Oh,
really
so
doesn't.
people
Yeah, everything. I shall try that.
See, we've got two different ways on how we handle situations like that, right? So I think nowadays teenagers or the youngsters are expressing their emotions through social media, right? Very often, like TikTok, Twitter. There's probably something, probably the older generation or our generation don't do that much. So do you think it is the right thing, or can they bring change by just venting out on social media? Sister Shanggari.
No, it's funny. I was thinking it's just funny because it ties back to your previous question. But if you have something to please go ahead.
Okay, so actually there's like a lot of difference, right? When you're renting out, it has a lot of emotion attached to it. You can't seek for a sense of ethic or professionalism in what they're saying, because it's just full of emotion. Because I'm on TikTok and I see people talking about things that don't mean anything to me, but maybe it was something very big for them. So they are just so overwhelmed, and it just has so much of emotions. And when I'm not saying don't be emotional, but when there's just so much of emotion, you just tend to overreact to a very petty kind of situation. But if you take some time and they think, and then they think of the rationale behind the issue, maybe that renting out whole concept can be actually very, very informative to people. Like when they share it as an experience, not as a complaint, it gives a very different words. The words they put out will sound totally different. I think I used to learn like that, because renting out and complaining has a lot of emotion attached to it. It's like I'm offended, or I'm offended, or I'm hurt. So I'm just putting it out there, and I'm just like nagging all the way. Like it doesn't make sense. But when I take myself out of the situation and I think about it from a different perspective, then a lot of professionalism comes in, a lot of ethic. I feel I think about the rationale. It's a lot fair. It's not fair to people. You know, I'm not condemning one person for the situation. I kind of look at both ways. So I think it's actually very good that youngsters are very open and vocal about their things, but I just think that that immediate reaction, like something happens and 2 seconds later they're on their phone, you know, guys, this happened today. But you know, they need to give a little bit of a break there, because it can be informative to people. It can help bring change. It's just that the way of doing it, I guess. Yeah, Akka.
Right. Yeah, so what I found interesting was that it ties back to your previous question about being suppressed, right? Social media is a platform where when we express, we sort of have an illusion that we've got audience listening to it. So as we scroll through videos on TikTok, stories on Insta, tweets, we are like, there's an audience listening to us. So one of the reasons why we see a lot and we sort of label it as ranting, right, is that people want them to be heard. They want themselves to be heard. I'm not going to tell my friend, she's not listening to me, he's not listening to me, so I'm going to go out on social media and I'll talk about it. I mean, think about it this way. If there's an issue that's happening, the first thing that I do is actually go on Twitter and I search for it and see how people have spoken about it. For all the concerts that has happened in the last few years with the ticket pricing and all, if you want to know more, go and see what people are talking about it. Yeah. Right? So what they're talking about, let's forget about that whole whether it's truthful, the tone of it, but let's talk about what are they saying. One is definitely information. Two, it's basically that's their voice. They are trying to say that, hey, this is what I feel, this is, you know, what they have done. And they are doing it, when they do it, when you press tweet, when you press post, you're having an intention that someone's going to see this and someone's going to read this. Information is gathered, a discussion could come up, an argument could potentially come up. So it's all expected when it goes up there. So do I think that it's right? I mean, I feel like there's no right or wrong to it, because how do I say it? Regardless, it's just more of like, say I got something happened to me and I'm going to express it. I'm not going to go tweet about it. I'll probably call somebody and I'll be like, hey, this is this. But what I'm saying verbally over the phone is exactly what's taking place on social media. Yeah, so I mean, it's just two different platforms that it's taking place on. And the other thing that I was thinking about is that it's an illusion, no, that you are being heard. I'm pretty sure we've come across tweets, I'm just talking mainly on Twitter, tweets where you see that they post a lot, they talk about their thoughts a lot, thinking that someone's going to read it and like understand. But the attention is not exactly given. What they do is because they're still under that illusion of like, I'm being heard, I'm being heard, and they continue doing it. So in a way, look at it this way, it's therapeutic for them. I'm getting whatever I'm feeling out. It's out in the universe, and like it's just out of my system. So, you know, instead of talking to a friend, this is what they have opted to do. You know, and like this whole, I'm pretty sure like even like inspirational quotes. We used to read it as quotes. Now they come as video form. You have to actually wait for like that 15 seconds to finish for you to know what. So, it's just how you want to show it, no? I think it's just advancement of technology in the planet Earth.
Yeah, I think now they have this thing called cancel culture. So if let's say there's someone that is against your opinion, so they form a group and they cancel this person on social media. So what are your opinions on that, Shanggari?
Okay, I really don't go by cancel culture because it's something very scary. The power these people hold, in social media is scary when it comes to that one person. The thing is that we all kind of know that we are all not perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes. And if there is one slight mistake a very famous personality does, or a famous TikToker does, or an Instagram influencer does, that's all they need, that one point. The one minus that they have, and then that's it. That's the end of their career. Because these people make money out of whatever they do.
They voice
right?
whatever their opinion is out on social media.
Right. And then there's this group of, I don't know, keyboard warriors or keyboard cowards, whatever we want to call these people.
Not heard at all.
Yes, they just sit there. I don't know what they do or how they do it, but then this one person is just no more there, They just cancel people out so quickly that I'm not even given the time to come out of the mistake I do, because everyone's already giving their opinion that what I did was wrong and what I did is something that I should be ashamed of. What I did is something really, really bad that I can't even be forgiven. You know, and they are just so quick to judge because we don't even know that person. All we have been doing is liking their posts, right? And that's what's been happening. So one person's whole career just ends like that. You know, but because of this cancel culture, and this happens to everyone, celebrities to normal people in school. You know, when you're a group of friends and like she goes away, like she goes a little bit different to your group, and then we just omit her, and then we have our own group later on, right? So I think that's not something new, but just that it's a bit scary like, when it comes to social media, the number of people there. Yeah.
I think that's very funny, right? Let me just tell you why. How many political issues have we spoken about in the last 3 years?
Too many.
Too many. And if I ask you to point out just one for me right now, no one's going to remember it.
Right.
Correct.
Right? So, irony of Tamil movies, they come up with the best dialogues, and so one of the things is that they say that the human's worst problem is that we have forgetfulness. We forget, right? As much as we're going to cancel people out today, 5 months down the road, you see this person, you bump into them, you all are best friends forever. So, when she said just now that how it's moving at a very fast pace and nothing is exactly permanent, this is what I think it is, right? And when she said, you know, but how when an influencer posts something and they find a moment for you to pick up, find a moment for you to pick up, and okay, we are going to pick on this, it lasts for a week. Sometimes lesser, and then next time he or she is posting something great, something more like, you know, a product or like talking about something really great. Oh my God, like such an influencer, such a motivational person. What happened to your opinion before? So I think that's very similar to our voice when we voice out. What you say today might not be something that you believe in 10 years down the road. Might not be believe in. But what you said today, as much as it causes something, it might also change. So there's always like this chance that you are taking when you are about to voice out something, right? So with this whole cancel culture, I feel like it's school, like, you know, I'm back in school. Like, I don't want to talk to you, didn't want to borrow me your eraser. I'm like, okay. Then after like a few years, and I'm like, you know, can you imagine you didn't want to, I still have a friend until today who talks about the fact that I didn't share my color pencils with him back in school, okay? But we are good friends now. The point is, it's at one point you think that it's like, oh my God, I don't like this person, but it's very momentarily. And I think what's lacking at this current point with the younger generation is that they don't think it's momentarily. They think it's like, okay, you're my best friend. Yeah, it's my life. And I mean, I strongly believe with the quote that change is the only constant. We keep changing by the second, by the minute. You know, and if you think that this is going to be here forever, it's not. Right? So with this whole cancel culture, I mean, first things first, I don't exactly follow it. Like, you know, we're cancelling out, but then you sort of just have a perception on that person. I think it stops there. I don't think it's entirely removing them from a society.
Yeah, so back to you as an individual. So how do you voice out your opinions, or not voice out your opinions, how do you express your emotions? Do you have a way like journaling or, you know, some sort of things like that? So, Shanggari?
One way I do is, okay, this might be funny, but I have my own group on WhatsApp. So it's just me in it. It's just me in it.
Calling a friend, but yeah, okay.
I mean,
it's calling a friend.
It's just me in it. Yeah. So when something doesn't go my way, I send myself text messages. So maybe I kind of say like, okay, Shanggari, today you're supposed to do this, but you didn't do this, and that kind of made you sad. So try to, you know, do better next time or something like that. Because I have a little bit of a tough time opening up to a second person. So I tend to do that by myself, you know. I know like journaling, you need a book, you know, take it out and then write something on it. So I think my phone is a very quick and easy way. So I have that group where I speak to myself actually.
You're at least getting your thoughts out there.
Right.
See, someone uses it as a tweet. It could be tweet. So I do journaling. Alternatively, I actually listen to the lyrics of the song. or like, you know, listen to actually a song that carries a lot of meaning to it, you know, talks about life, depending on the situation, you know, a little bit more old school maybe that sense. But yeah, that's expressing, I think it's more of just me getting my thoughts out. Because what happens when you're emotionally affected is that it's clouded.
Yes.
You don't exactly see it clearly, which is why people tell you to, you know, talk to someone about it,
exactly.
write it out and stuff. So it's more of just sitting in silence and having your space and watching your thoughts, and then knowing what to do with them.
So you both are very strong individuals, right? So I'm sure there is a backbone, right, of who you are as a person. So you can let us know who is, you know, your support system.
Oh,
Suchitra.
okay. So mine would be my family, and this close group of friends, 3-4 of them. But I think the umbrella of the whole thing would be Swami. So I call him the big boss, right? And I call like everyone else below him like the bosses. So I mean, for me, it's just that at the moments in life where I thought that, really now, like why me, right? Like, and the only person who's sort of been there, but you can't see is him, right? And so support system, I think, would be in that sense him and like the people that he has brought into my life. Yeah.
Chandrika?
For me, it would be my family, exactly like what Akka said. Because you know, every time something goes wrong, like what Akka said, you know, we all get defensive and we go like, why me? Why is it happening to me? I'm the nicest person on earth. You know, I'm such a nice person. You know, that's what always we do. That's what I do. And I get all defensive and I say, I'm a really nice person. This shouldn't be happening to me. You know, I don't mean any harm to people, but something wrong when things go my way. That's how I feel. You know, and whenever that happens, the only person that doesn't judge me, the person that don't even care about what's happening in my life right now, would be my family, right? They don't really care what's going on, and they always listen to your side of the story. I think that's a plus, because they will be like, yeah, what you said is right. You know, even if you have mixed opinions outside.
See, let's just highlight the fact that she said that they listen to her.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think ideally that's what we are looking for,
Right.
you know, someone to
To listen.
Listen to, correct.
Yeah. So I think there's value in conversing with people that don't see eye to eye with you, right? So you might learn something new, or it can be an entirely total different situation, right? So we often find it difficult to have conversations with people in topics we don't agree on, right? So has there been a situation where, you know, that has happened, or how did you handle it probably in your uni life or in your working place? Suchitra kan?
Okay. So the first thing that came to my head was, so I think, I mean, growing up, like things that you would probably get into argument is that you like a certain thing and the other person doesn't like a certain thing. So for me, was A.R. Rahman is the greatest music director. Okay, let's not put it as the greatest. He's like a good, he's a great music director. You see, the greatest, let's not argue that right now, but he's great. So if someone comes and tells me no, then I go all out and be like, no, he is. And we used to go on like a lot, right? Because I didn't have just one person in life. I had like so many things, so many people. Like, you know, I'm a big fan of Rajnikant as well. And people call him old and stuff. And so I get into defensive mode automatically, right? Then my father told me this once. He's like, you see, if I bring gold and I put it on the table, all right, and I tell you this is gold, but you believe that is gold plated. How much is he going to convince me that it's gold? Like how much of effort does he need to take to convince me it's gold? If I think that it's gold plated, I'm already set on it, no? So, I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, A.R. Rahman and Rajnikant are gold, but I'm trying to say that if I believe in A and you don't believe in A, I am not obliged to make you believe in A. Like you are allowed to believe in B, C, whatever, anything that works for you. But at the same time, I've come to a point where don't demean A lah, you know, like let's just take that into consideration. Right. So in terms of opposing views, it's more of like, okay, so you take of it, it's the same thing as perspective, no? They come from this, they come from a background that they've experienced ABC, you know, their background, their teachings are very different. So when they view the situation, it's also different. So, I mean, in that sense, you sort of come to an understanding that, okay, that's what you believe in. I mean, we've had conversations with people who don't believe in God. And then they ask me, where do I go on Saturdays? And I'm like, I go to the center. Like, what do I? Yeah, so, I mean, and then, so there are some people who would sort of talk you out of it. Like, why are you doing it? Like, for what? You know, so I mean, I think in that sense, like what we spoke in the beginning, our core values, right? What is it that you stand by? And if you stand by it so much, is it, you know, how much does it mean to you for you to stand by it so much? And it's a matter of, are you able to shift your belief, or you're going to stay put with it? Yeah.
Honestly, I don't care. It's just that you know, most of the time I go to hospitals and I come back, so I'm just tired. So whatever people say doesn't reach that point of triggering where I go and sit down and say, hey, no, what I'm saying is right, what you're wrong. I stopped doing that. I think it's been a while since I've actually had an argument that I try to suggest, I try to say, hey, this is kind of good, you know, but if you don't take it, it's fine. It's just that I think that's something I came up with myself, like I built it myself, that sort of not caring about what others have to say about the things that you do. Because nobody understands coming to center. That's the hardest thing to explain to someone who's not part of the SAI fold. And moving on, you know, with time, I just be like, okay, you're not going to understand no matter what. So I'll just be like, I have to go somewhere, and that's it. You know, I'm not wasting my time there, rectifying or clarifying what I'm actually doing. Yeah.
So you say what you want to.
Yes, exactly.
So you don't have to explain yourself
Exactly.
to people who are not open to accepting what you're about to say.
That's a good word, by the way, acceptance.
Yes, I think acceptance is very important when it comes to voicing out an opinion or expressing your emotions. Like, okay, so how do you feel about being in a, for example, you're in a debate and you disagree to a particular motion and you have to debate in that motion, right? So it might be very difficult, but you have to because it's a debate. So how would you feel when you're in that situation? Shanggari?
I think that time I'll be all prepared to fight back.
Because it's a debate.
You're put in an environment where your job is to convince the other person. So then you sort of go all out lah. You know? I mean, I think in that sense it's no more whether you're going to voice out or not, because regardless your role is to voice out.
Correct.
Your role is as a speaker, you know? You're not going to, so I think in that sense it's more of, I'll go all out to convince you, because that's the role that's given to me.
Exactly.
Okay. So as individuals, right, who have found their voice and who have said their part and also taken your stand, as we heard, you know, all the other questions you've answered before, when it comes to speaking your opinions and expressing your emotions, right, what advice would you give to your generation?
This is like one full circle because it's going back to the 4 pointers. So is it truthful? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And the most important, does it improve silence? So like if you're going to take a moment right now and just stay silent and you want to say something, is it going to break the silence in a happier tone or is it just not? Yeah. So I think in that sense, that would be my 4. Yeah.
Shanggari?
I think I agree with Akka.
Wow.
Because I think she said it perfectly. I mean, I don't have to add on to anything. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay, so what would you tell the younger generation, your advice to the younger generation on the same topic?
That's hard because they never listen. I mean,
then again, you're judging. But you could just think about like what would you want to say?
I mean, actually, I'm not so old to call them younger generation, right?
I think as a guru, right? You're teaching group 3.
Yes,
so as a guru, what would you do?
I mean, I will do my best to help out in whatever they, because you know, it's just that giving advice is something super hard, and especially following to an advice. So I rarely take advices. So giving an advice would be, I mean, I understand okay, you're in that age of trends and there's a lot of things going on in your life. You know, my life was way quieter when I was younger, I guess. So if you're having a tough time, be honest and have that, you know, confidence to say it out to someone. Just don't keep it with you. You know, just stop telling nobody cares or people do care. I would care. I mean, even if you're a random person, you want to say something to me, I would be very open about listening to you. So just, you know, people do care, and I think the younger generation should know that.
Yeah. I think it's more of tell them you can express yourself.
Yes.
I think the thing about at least almost everybody or anyone who's younger than me, is that they think that they can't.
Yeah.
There's no space, which is why we see this whole social media aspect coming in. But I think it's just more of you can. It's not you must, but you can. You have a choice. You can do it. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the steps that you take before considering to, you know, post up or voice out?
So in terms
Lead
of
by example, so we can, you know, follow. Suchitra?
yeah, so posting and all, I'm like definitely like a zero lah. I'm like, oh, you must. And then all this feed thing and all that. Forget it. Unless it's something that I'm very passionate about. So 3/4 of the posts that you see, at least it's mostly on music. For me, because I feel like the importance that I give music is not exactly given in wholesome and by everyone else that I know, at least. So you know, for me, I feel like by putting something out, I'm sort of educating them. So in a way, it's the same spectrum of how I believe someone is listening to me when I do post it. Instead of voicing out, I actually wait lah. If it's a group discussion, right, and it's an argument or someone's just talking about this particular topic and they're on and on about it, I actually listen and I'm like, okay, so that's what you think, interesting. And you know, I'm listening, but at the same time, I'm also thinking about what I had thought about. You know, so I had thought A, and then it probably is moving to like F or G right now because you know what they're saying, and it comes to a point where I sometimes don't even feel the need to say it because I'm like, okay, like you know what you said, how people think that what difference are you going to make when you say that, right? For me, it's not about the difference that actually I feel like I might not make a difference by saying it. Like you know, you're already thinking in this spectrum, and if I'm going to say something, it's going to just make it worse. And I mean, I think it's more of, do you want to invest your energy in it or not? Yeah.
So you pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, quite literally.
Shanggari?
I think I do a lot of thinking before saying anything at all. So, and then there's something, I'm going to quote a book right now.
Please do.
So it's from the favorite book I said, the Jay Shetty's Live Like a Monk, where there's this something called the 3 S's, where you spot, you stop, and you swap. Okay.
Interesting.
So this all happens in your head. It's not something that you do physically. So every time a thought rises in you, you spot the thought first. Like you think, okay, now you know, right? There's this thought up in your head, and then you stop it, and you analyze whether it's good or bad, like what it can do. And if it's if it's siding to the negative, try to swap it with something better. So I think if we spend it, that's not going to take a lot of time. I know it sounds as if it's very hard to do, but it's very quick.
Yeah.
You know, just thinking for about 2 seconds whether this is going to help or not would kind of help. You know, and sometimes I don't say anything, like what Akka said. Sometimes it's just silence is the best. Yeah.
Best answer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, when we spoke about voicing out and things like that for the past 30 minutes, I think about Swami's most prominent teaching where he mentions there needs to be a synchronization of your thought, words and deeds, right? And I think the greatest example we can give is Lord Rama, right? He always shows his words and his deeds through purity, right? So, with that said, do you think that good thoughts can somewhat govern the way you use your words, right? If yes, then how so?
I'm going to say yes first, but how? But how?
I think it's the narrative that runs in your head. You're walking and you hit the stone, what do you say?
Ouch.
Okay, so either ouch, Sairam, any other things that can't be said here right now. You're driving and then like somebody's not accidentally, they purposely cut into your lane, what do you say? So something that runs in your head, no? It's not something that you just say it without thinking. And that whole concept of speaking without thinking comes from you do it as a habit, right? If you're doing it so often, it becomes something so mundane. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you don't brush your teeth, you know something's wrong. Like you don't need to think I have to brush my teeth. You're actually doing it.
Right.
So in terms of voicing out, giving opinion and talking, when you sort of train yourself to do that, basically watching your thoughts on how you think, and then when you voice out, actually one good thing that we can talk about here is introverts. Introverts are those people who don't exactly speak in group discussions. But in terms of observation, they are the highest. Because they are just listening, they are actively listening, they are watching their thoughts, and when they say it, hardly you hear it coming out as harsh. You know, it's like, it is the most either neutral manner, if not good. You know, and that's a practice that I think we all sort of lack, because what we want to do immediately is just react.
Right.
And funnily enough, because the human mind is like that, everything that you see on social media is react, you know, and it's not read. You know, I don't know if you have come across this feature on Twitter where if there's an article and you want to retweet it, there's actually a pop-up that says, do you want to read the article first? Because it knows that if you're retweeting it, everyone else gets to see it other than just yourself, right? But it's asking you like, are you sure you want to do this? So that, in a way, that's the same thing when we are like, you know, especially in an argument and you've got so much to say to this person. I mean, one thing that I can relate to is sibling fight lah, because you're like, oh, this person knows me in out, I can go all out. But at the same time, you know, it comes to a point where like, do you really want to tell this person this? You know, so it's more of that stopping moment and like, you know, like just observing before you can actually respond.
Right.
Yeah.
Chandrika?
I mean, coming back to the 3 S's,
Yeah.
you know, always watch your thoughts. And I think once said, you can't pick it all up back, right? So it's just like always consider what's going on in your head first. Spot, stop, and swap. Chee.
I call like 4.
Yeah, I think it's a book we should all read. Right, so thank you so much to the both of you for sharing, as you know, who you are as an individual until the advice you give to the younger generation and all of that. So it was indeed a very interesting discussion topic for today. So with that, we have concluded this episode of Chai with Sai. I am Saundary, your host for today. Sai Ram.